Have you ever made like a split-second decision?
Oh, yeah.
One that like changed your whole life?
Yeah.
Like maybe it was a career change or a move to a new city or even just like saying yes to something you weren't expecting.
Right.
Well, imagine doing that during a terrifying thunderstorm.
Oh, wow.
And it doesn't just change your life.
Yeah.
It like sparks a revolution that changes like the whole Western world.
Wow.
That's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
It's the early life of Martin Luther.
All right.
This guy went from law student to a monk to like an accidental revolutionary.
Wow. It's fascinating how these like small moments can have such huge impact,
Yeah.
not just on our own lives, but on like the whole course of history.
Yeah.
So we're going to explore the world through Martin Luther's eyes.
Okay.
A world where like everyone was super religious,
Uh-huh.
where they thought relics could get you out of purgatory,
Yeah.
and like the devil was everywhere.
Yeah.
Even in, well,
You'll see.
you'll find out.
So our guides for this deep dive are the historians Tom Holland and Dominic Sambrook
Okay.
from their podcast, The Rest is History.
Great.
And they paint this really vivid picture of Luther's world.
Yeah.
And it all starts with this young guy,
Okay.
fresh out of university,
Mm-hmm.
heading home to join the family business.
Right.
Can you picture him
Yeah.
riding through the German countryside
Mhm.
with like all his dad's expectations weighing on him?
It's important to understand the pressure back then.
Yeah.
A son was supposed to follow in his father's footsteps,
Okay.
especially in a good profession like mining and smelting.
Right?
Luther's dad had it all planned out for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then boom,
What?
a huge thunderstorm
Oh, no.
out of nowhere.
Really?
Just imagine it.
Yeah.
Sky gets dark, the wind howls,
Hmm.
and then these flashes of lightning,
Uh-huh.
and young Luther is terrified.
Oh, yeah.
He thinks he's going to die.
Wow.
So he makes this desperate vow to St. Anne,
Sam?
the patron saint of miners.
Okay.
He says, "Save me and I'll become a monk."
So that begs the question.
What's that?
Was it just the storm that made him do this? Or was it something deeper?
Like what?
Maybe he wanted to get away from his dad
Okay.
and a future he didn't want.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't really a divine intervention,
Maybe not.
just a
Yeah.
good excuse for a big change.
Right. A subconscious rebellion.
Wow.
Playing out on a rainy road.
Yeah, that's deep.
Exactly. It shows how complex our motivations can be.
Right.
Luther was like all of us,
Okay.
shaped by his experiences, his relationships, and
Yeah.
his inner struggles.
And this choice he made,
Yeah.
it would set off a chain of events
Uh-huh.
that would change the religious landscape of Europe.
Yeah. A chain reaction.
So Luther decides to be a monk,
Okay.
and it shocks his family.
Oh, wow.
His dad's furious.
Yeah.
He thinks Luther's been tricked by the devil.
That's interesting.
It shows you how afraid people were of the devil back then.
Mm. The devil wasn't some abstract idea back then.
Right.
It was like a real terrifying presence.
Yeah.
And this fear would really stick with Luther.
You can see it in his writing.
Exactly. But him defying his dad,
Yeah.
that shows something important about him.
Oh, what's that?
He was willing to challenge authority,
He was a rebel.
even when everyone was against him.
So Luther enters the monastery.
Okay.
He's looking for peace and a connection with God.
Makes sense.
But instead of peace,
Yeah.
he has a spiritual crisis.
Oh, no.
He feels super sinful.
Oh, wow.
He prays, fasts, and confesses like crazy.
Hmm.
He even confesses for 6 hours straight.
6 hours?
What could he have possibly been confessing?
Well, remember, he was dealing with big questions.
Like what?
Not just little sins, but like
Yeah.
the whole idea of sin
Mhm.
and salvation.
Right.
And if he was good enough
There's a lot of pressure.
to be perfect,
Yeah.
like everyone felt that pressure back then.
6 hours, though.
I know.
I can't even focus for that long.
Me neither. But luckily for Luther.
And his confessor probably.
Yeah, probably.
He gets sent to teach
Fair.
theology at the University of Wittenberg.
This is a big change for him.
In what way?
Well, he goes from a quiet monastery to a busy university
Yeah.
full of new ideas
Yeah.
and new challenges to what he thought.
This is where he starts questioning things.
Like what?
Like old doctrines,
Okay.
and especially the influence of Aristotle.
Aristotle the philosopher.
Yeah, on Christian theology.
It's amazing how those old debates
Yeah.
still affected religion.
Luther really had it out for Aristotle.
He did.
He said, no one can be a theologian unless they do so without Aristotle.
Wow. What was it about Aristotle that bugged him so much?
Yeah.
Luther thought that Aristotle's focus on reason and logic
Huh.
didn't fit with Christian faith.
Mm.
especially the idea of being saved by grace.
So it was faith over reason.
Yes, he thought human reason was flawed
Okay.
and couldn't fully understand God.
So he's rejecting this intellectual elitism
Exactly.
that had like crept into the church.
And this change in his thinking
Yeah.
happens at the same time as something else.
What's that?
The printing press.
Oh, wow.
Imagine trying to start a revolution before that.
You couldn't.
It would be almost impossible to spread your ideas.
Like trying to do it with handwritten scrolls.
Exactly. But Luther had this new tool. He could print and spread his ideas fast.
And this would be super important later on.
Absolutely crucial. Yeah, it's like today, how ideas can spread so fast online
Yeah.
and challenge everything we thought we knew.
Like those viral videos and stuff.
Exactly. And it all started with a guy in a thunderstorm.
But let's get back to those 95 Theses.
Okay.
They're going around thanks to the printing press.
Right.
And people are starting to notice,
Mm-hmm.
what was it about Luther's ideas
Yeah.
that really got to people?
The indulgences were a big part of it.
Okay.
They showed how people were unhappy with the church.
Right. But it was more than that, right?
Yeah, Luther was tapping into something deeper.
Like what?
People were tired of the church's power
Okay.
and how it seemed more interested in money than God.
So people wanted a closer connection with God
Yeah, a more personal one.
without the church getting in the way.
That's it. Luther talked about sola scriptura.
Sola Scriptura.
It means scripture alone.
Okay.
He said the Bible was the only authority you need.
Wow, that's huge.
It was a total shift from what the church said.
Yeah, they always emphasize tradition and the Pope.
Right, Luther was saying you don't need them.
You can figure it out yourself.
Exactly, read the Bible for yourself.
It must have shaken the church to its core.
Oh, yeah. It was a theological earthquake.
And it wasn't just academics talking about this.
No, it spread to everyone.
Really?
Peasants, princes, scholars, even merchants.
Wow, everyone wanted that direct connection.
To their faith, yeah.
So how did the church react?
Well, at first they tried to ignore Luther.
Like he was nothing.
Just a grumpy monk causing trouble.
But his ideas kept spreading.
They did, and the church started to worry.
They couldn't ignore him anymore.
They tried to shut him up.
Really?
They said he was a heretic,
A heretic.
twisting the Bible to fit his own ideas.
Wow. They even threatened to excommunicate him.
That's a big deal.
What did Luther do?
Luther never backed down from a fight.
He was tough.
He actually seemed to enjoy it.
Really?
He kept writing and defending his views, passionately and with wit.
Okay.
Sometimes he was even a little sarcastic.
He didn't hold back.
And then he did something really bold.
What was that?
He burned the papal bull.
The what?
The papal bull, it was a letter from the Pope
Okay.
threatening him with excommunication.
So he burned it?
He burned it in public.
That's like saying, I'm not afraid of you?
It was a huge act of defiance.
He wasn't messing around.
No, he was serious about his cause.
And the more the church tried to stop him,
Yeah.
the more
Yeah.
popular he became.
It's like there's no such thing as bad publicity.
The church accidentally made him famous.
They did. It's like what we call the Streisand effect.
What's
When you try to hide something.
Yeah.
It just makes people more curious.
So Luther's fame kept growing.
And so did his movement.
It wasn't just about his ideas, though, was it?
No, not just that.
There were other things going on.
Right.
Social and political things that helped the Reformation spread.
Absolutely.
But-
Like what?
Well, a lot of people were unhappy with the church.
In what way?
They thought it was too rich
Okay.
and too involved in politics.
So they wanted the church to stay out of it.
Yeah, and some princes saw a chance
To do what?
to break away from Rome.
So they could have more power.
Exactly. And ordinary people liked Luther's message
Of what?
that everyone was equal in God's eyes
Right.
and that the church's hierarchy wasn't important.
So it's like everything came together at the right time.
It was the perfect storm.
Luther's ideas, the printing press, politics, social unrest, it all created a movement
That swept through Europe.
and changed everything.
That's the Reformation,
It broke up the Christian world.
leading to all those conflicts
But it also had a lasting impact,
on Western civilization.
even beyond religion.
It changed politics, culture, art,
Everything.
even our ideas about freedom
Yeah.
and the role of the church.
It's hard to imagine the world without it.
That's a powerful legacy.
All because of one guy and a thunderstorm.
Amazing. Yeah, it really is amazing
It is.
how one guy's spiritual journey
Yeah.
could change so much.
Right. But Like you said, the
Okay.
Reformation wasn't just about theology and power.
Right. It affected everyday life.
Exactly.
How did it change how people saw faith
Okay.
and family
Right.
and even like their relationship with the devil?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
And one people don't always think about.
I guess so.
One of the biggest changes was
Sure.
how marriage and family were seen.
Okay.
Remember, Luther was a monk? He
Right.
wasn't supposed to get married?
But then he started challenging the church
Uh-huh.
and he changed his mind about marriage.
Exactly.
So instead of celibacy being the best way to be spiritual,
Yeah.
which is what the church said,
Right.
Luther said marriage was actually holy.
He did.
It was a way to experience God's grace.
In a real down-to-earth way.
That's a big shift.
It is.
That flips the old view on its head.
The medieval view.
Yeah, they thought marriage was just a necessary evil.
Like a distraction from God.
But Luther's saying it's a good thing.
A sacred thing.
This must have changed how women were seen, too.
Oh, definitely.
They weren't just there for the economics anymore.
No.
They were partners in a spiritual journey.
Equal partners.
It's pretty progressive for the time.
It opened up a whole new way of thinking.
About women's roles in society.
In the family and beyond.
So we've talked about marriage and family.
Mm-hmm.
What about the devil?
Oh, yeah. Luther's favorite topic.
He thought the devil was everywhere.
Lurking in the shadows.
Whispering temptations.
Messing with people.
Even in the,
Yeah, the less holy parts of life.
Luther's descriptions are pretty vivid.
He had a way with words.
But with all this emphasis on personal responsibility
Yeah.
and reading the Bible for yourself,
Uh-huh.
did the devil become even scarier?
In a way, yes.
How so?
Well, now people had to figure out right and wrong on their own.
Okay,
They had to resist temptation without the church's help.
that's a lot of pressure.
It could make you feel very vulnerable
Like you could make the wrong choice, and
and fall into the devil's trap.
so it was like the price of freedom
Exactly. More freedom means more responsibility.
and maybe more fear of the unknown.
And this struggle between good and evil,
Yeah,
it became a big part of Protestant thought.
it still resonates with us today.
Absolutely.
We still wrestle with questions of morality and faith.
In a world that's not always black and white.
So after all this talk about Luther,
Yeah.
what does it mean for us today?
Good question.
Why should we care about this monk from 500 years ago?
Well, Luther's story shows us
Right.
that even small things can change the world.
Like a thunderstorm?
Or a moment of doubt.
Or some printed papers?
It shows the power of ideas
To do what?
to challenge those in charge
To inspire change.
and to make the world a different place.
It's also a story about being human,
About trying to find meaning in a crazy world.
about facing temptation,
And ultimately, it's a story of courage
of believing in something.
and the power of faith to change things
The Reformation was messy,
with lots of conflict,
but it led to more freedom
more intellectual curiosity.
and a more personal way of experiencing faith.
That's a powerful legacy.
So we've learned that one guy
With strong beliefs and a printing press.
can really shake things up.
Maybe there's another Luther out there today.
Someone who will challenge the way things are.
And change the world in ways we can't even imagine.
That's something to think about.
It is.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Martin Luther.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
For another fascinating story from history,